Hello everyone, Ian Wishart here to bring you another magnificent episode of the splendiferous Take A Pew podcast. And I'm joined, of course, by the mighty Simon Clark. And Simon, do we have a show lined up today?
Yay!
No, that was a question. Do we have a show lined up today?
Oh, I see.
Well, I did ask you to set something up.
Did you? Yes, we have. We've got none other than Sean Beagley.
Oh, what? The newly installed Rector of Frimley?
None other. And a really interesting guest, as you say, has just embarked on his vicarly journey. He was ordained just 3 years ago, and only a couple of weeks back took the reins of this lovely Surrey parish, not a million miles from the border of Swaziland.
You what?
As you used to say to our guests, Surrey is technically not a million miles from the border of Swaziland, or indeed from the moon.
Oh yes, I see. And indeed both of those are strictly true. But, dear listener, for the avoidance of doubt, we've travelled only around 12 miles from Take A Pew HQ to the parish of Frimley, incorporating the congregations of the Church of England churches of St. Peter and St. Francis to meet their rector, Sean Beagley.
Who, if I'm not mistaken, grew up in and around our very own parish.
Well, I certainly remember him strutting his stuff with a bass guitar as part of our youth group there. But I guess quite a lot of water has passed under the proverbial bridge since then.
Ooh, water passing under a bridge. Well, as an environmental scientist, I could analyse that for the rate of flow for you, based of course on velocity and cross-sectional area.
Yes, I'm sure you could. But even better than that, shall we get on with the show?
OK then.
Good. This is the Take A Pew podcast with the Reverend Sean Beagley.
Sean Beagley.
Take a pew.
And here we are indeed in the town of Frimley in Surrey, around 30 miles southwest of London. An ancient settlement which is recorded on maps as far back as 933 AD. And it is now the home of two Anglican churches with one incumbent rector, an old pal of mine and our guest today, the Reverend Sean Beagley. Sean, thank you for having us, and please
Take a pew.
Thank you very much.
Hello Sean, it's great to see you. Perhaps you could just introduce yourself to our wonderful listeners.
Absolutely. My name is Sean Beagley, and as you have very kindly just introduced, I am the new rector of Frimley Parish. Sorry, lads, I'm used to getting a round of applause after I say that, so do get this. Thank you. It will run out soon, I'm sure. I'm married to the wonderful Jen, and we have three lovely girls, Ariella, Emmy and Hermione.
Brilliant, thanks Sean. Now we're looking forward to our Take A Pew journey with you, taking in the highways and byways of your life thus far and chatting about your favourite things before making a quick pit stop for your fabulous dinner party.
Yes, and enlisting your help with Is It True?, receiving your spiritual pearl of wisdom and posing one of my random questions.
Which will, I am sure, all be great fun, apart from the last bit. But anyway, let's begin at the beginning. Where did life start for you, Sean? I understand it was somewhere that wasn't entirely made out of Lego.
No, it definitely wasn't made out of Lego.
Because that would have been a bit weird.
It would be slightly, just slightly. So I grew up in a place called West Byfleet, which is just outside of your HQ.
We know it well.
Yes,
Absolutely.
indeed.
And when I started secondary school, we moved across the Basingstoke Canal to a little place called Newhaw, where my parents still live today.
And talking of your parents, what was your family unit like?
Yeah, so there was just myself, my mum and dad, and an older brother, Greg.
So Greg, does he now own the bakery?
He doesn't. No, unfortunately not. No. He works in something I don't really know what he does. It's a bit like Chandler from Friends, where no one really knows what he does for a living.
That sounds very mysterious. So you mentioned school there, which brings us on nicely to our first regular feature of the show, which is...
What were you like at school? Were you a little bit geeky? Or were you a little bit freaky? Or were you a little bit cheeky? What were you like at school?
Yeah, Sean, what were you like at school?
Well, I used to think I was the coolest lad in the world, but I'm probably told by my friends and family I was anything but. In the baggiest jeans, with the latest metal band on my t-shirt, and with crazy hair. Had it in different styles, either massive spikes, some sort of very strange central Mohican. And again, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I think everyone else thought anything but, really.
So if you take yourself back to being 12, say, this is like the psychiatrist's couch, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Where are you going
And just imagine yourself in that classroom, and you can look around and see your classmates at that stage. What do you think they would make of the fact that you are now a vicar?
I think for the majority would be incredibly surprised. I think at 12, I probably, like, maybe a bit young there, but slightly older, I probably classed myself as an atheist.
Gosh.
Not quite sure I was an atheist. It was probably somewhere nearer agnostic. But I know someone the other day found me on Facebook, and they generally were like saying, "Oh, where is everyone at now?" And then they realised, and he said that Sean's actually a genuine priest. And there was a real genuine surprise. So yeah, surprise, I would say.
How did you get on at school? Was school a good place for you?
So I quite enjoyed school, actually. I had a really quite good group of friends and had quite a lot of fun. And I did quite well at GCSEs, actually. But then for some very strange reason, I thought I wouldn't really flourish at school. So I left school and I became an apprentice at 16.
Wow, so early out into the working world. We'll come back to that shortly. And think of those early years. What did you get up to in your spare time?
I think it was usually hanging around in street corners and in town centres with my friends. I think a lot of them skateboarded. I probably liked people to think that I was a skateboarder. I wasn't. I've got very two left feet and no coordination at all.
Did you get into any trouble, or you?
Yeah, well, we were all right. I think you generally got moved on from places quite often. I think generally we were probably better behaved than most, I think.
Any sport?
So I used to love rugby. Rugby was my thing, doing a bit of cricket as well. But I was that guy that would go to the club and put all the training in and never make the team.
Oh.
So yeah, that was always a little bit gutting.
Oh.
And the guys that would sort of be very sporty would turn up in the last few and then get on the team. So,
It's annoying, that, isn't it?
What? So you talked about being almost an atheist. Talk to us about your introduction to matters churchy. Were you a church-going family?
No, absolutely not. So my wider family are Irish Catholic on my mum's side, so that I kind of knew church in the background when my great auntie and uncle, who were like grandparents to us, used to come over from Ireland yearly. We'd always take them off to mass and things like that, but that was really the main connection. And it wasn't till I was 16 I had a really, as I say, wonderful group of friends who all really went to church. And as you do, I met a girl and she went to church and I wanted to know what made her tick and why on earth, what was this God thing, what was this church thing that she did. So I went along. It was strange. Sorry, lads, it's the church where you were at. But it was strange as someone that never went to church. Slowly got to know people and realised that people aren't quite as strange as they come across.
And was there a moment that you look back on? And
So I'd started going to church, but I can't say that I had particularly any kind of faith. And then a little while after I'd been going to church, my brother was attacked on a night out in Woking, and he was quite badly injured. He ended up in hospital, and I remember my parents getting a phone call in the middle of the night, and they were like, "Well, you've got work in the morning, Sean," because I was an apprentice at the time, so you got to stay at home, and we're going to see him. So off they went, and I sat down and I prayed the first genuine prayer I'd ever prayed in my life, really, and I just felt this overwhelming presence of somebody that wanted to know me, wanted to love me, and was calling me into relationship, and that was the beginning.
wow. Greg was all right, I presume.
He's alive, kicking, and very well. Thankfully he recovered very well. Again, he was an atheist. I would say he's much more agnostic. He's much more spiritual kind of person now, I think at the beginning he was probably quite shocked that he was the catalyst for me to
Yes.
having faith. But
Did he know? And he knew that. You told him about that.
I have told him,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think he would particularly, like I say, originally have thought it was a positive, but certainly I think he's seen what it's done in my life, and obviously where it's taken me in my life. So I think, he sees that there is something profound in that. What that is, though, I think it's very different things to I would see it.
You mentioned going into an apprenticeship, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but not before we ask you our next regular question, which is...
What's your fondest childhood memory? What's your fondest of all your childhood memories? What's your fondest?
Yes, Sean, what's your fondest childhood memory?
So this one's a slightly ridiculous one, actually, because it probably shouldn't be a fond memory at all. It's being on holiday, and I can't remember if it was Charmouth or somewhere like that, but going rock pooling with my dad, and I decided to do a face dive into a rock pool. And my dad was laughing quite so much that he nearly let me drown. So it shouldn't be a fond memory, but it's one of them ones that just is so ridiculous and so kind of crystal clear that it is. Yeah.
Wow, so a face dive into...
I
So did you come up with loads
face
of like starfish and anemones attached to you?
Probably a bit of seaweed, and a bit, absolutely.
I do have quite fond memories of rock pools. They're quite charming things. Now you've mentioned it, I never thought of it, but actually that's a lovely memory. We like that.
It's lovely.
So anyway, back on life's journey, you'd established this relationship with God, finished school and did an apprenticeship, but not presumably in the priesthood.
No, I trained as a car mechanic. I'll go with the layman's terms, technician as we like to call ourselves.
Oh, right, okay.
I trained...
A technician, is that that's the proper word?
That's it, absolutely,
okay, right.
So I went, my dad was a car mechanic, so I sort of grew up around cars, love cars, still love cars. So went and did an apprenticeship, went into the world of work, which is a big shock at 16, really big shock at 16, having to get up properly in the morning and sort of look after yourself. But it was a great time. I mean, I was really lucky. I worked for a Mazda garage, and they have something called a rotary engine, which no other car has. Terrible, it drinks oil, it drinks fuel, but it was just something really unique. And I thought this is going to be great. I'm going to get to train to take these weird and wonderful specialist engines apart. Turns out, though, we just replaced them whenever they went wrong. And they did go wrong, but
Do you have time to dabble these days?
Not so much. We still kind of service the cars ourselves. My dad is just about to retire as a mechanic. My wife Jen's dad is also a mechanic, so we're a family of mechanics there. So still get involved. I love classic cars. I don't have one. The last one I had, I got rid of when we moved back from Durham to Windlesham. But it would be nice to go back to it and do it again.
Plenty of time for it. What was the last one you had?
So that was a Rover SD1 V8. So I had the catchy name on Instagram as the V8 Vicar. But it was a car I always wanted to own, and just so happened that a customer of mine, I admired the car from afar, and the gentleman passed away, and his wife just contacted out of the blue, and at the time we just had children, so it was a bit like, I can't really take it on. And then out of nowhere she said, well, actually I want you to take it on, and gave me the car, which was I mean, the most wonderful, beautiful gift. It was really touching, touching.
So how long did you spend in the motor trade?
So I stayed in the motor trade until I trained for the clergy. I stayed on the spanners to about 2012, 2013. And then I went into sort of the business side, still on servicing and sort of the mechanical side of things.
Do you have any tricky customers?
Oh, gosh, absolutely. I say that working in retail motor trade is what set me for the clergy.
Excellent.
What was any inklings about this forthcoming, somewhat significant shift in vocation?
So actually, to tell a story, the first time somebody sort of gave an inkling of it was really early on. I was probably about 17, probably around the time I was baptised, just before I was confirmed. And a lovely lady from church called Jimmy, who we all know, approached this 17-year-old punk kid and said, I had this vision of you in a dog collar. Have you ever thought about joining the clergy? Well, a 17-year-old Sean ran away very fast and thought nothing of it for many, many years. Apparently, when I was confirmed, our previous curate, Helen, when she gave me First Communion, also said, do you know if Sean's ever thought about the clergy? So there were just a few nudges and then a long time of running away. I'm very much a Jonah. If you can run in the opposite direction, you should do it.
But you couldn't run forever, obviously. How did it all creep up on you in the end?
So actually, it was our wonderful spiritual time away spring harvest. And I went with the church. I got persuaded to come and help with the youth group. And we were doing lots of different workshops and going to different places. And my life was at a real transition point. I'd been living in a flat with some Christian friends. 2 of them had gone off and got married, and it sort of changed over a little bit. So it was feeling a little bit like I was sort of wandering around a bit aimlessly at that time. And I was questioning whether I was going to, I desperately wanted to be a dad and I desperately wanted to be a husband, and I was feeling like that wasn't going to happen. So I sort of put it to God to challenge me. And at that spring harvest, God did challenge me, but also challenged me that if I was going to be asking those questions, I should be asking questions about other things in my future, one of them being ordained ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was there a particular point at that spring harvest when that sort of the penny dropped for you?
I think so. I remember going to one of the big top events, as they were called in them days, when they actually had a big top, and doing some of the worship and just being so overtaken that I just needed to give my life fully, not just the bits on the edge and the bits that work round, but actually that God was calling me to give it all. So it was quite dramatic.
You still had to go from there to actually.
So it took time,
biting the bullet, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I had the joy. The very first person I told was a good friend of yours and mine, Neil Lambert.
Oh yeah.
I went. He'd
friend of the show.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. I went and saw him, and I went over for dinner, and he cooked us a roast dinner. And then I just sort of talked about it a little bit gently, and he sort of gave his sort of ideas and really helpful pointers. And then I went out for a friend's birthday, and I met a certain lady called Jen, who would in future be my wife. And one of the first things I said to her was that I was looking at starting vocations in the Church of England, and she didn't run away. So that was quite good. But she's got no excuse, so she was there from the beginning.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good. But you did eventually go to some sort of selection conference or BAP or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a few years of vocations first. My background obviously not being academic, they wanted to just test that I could do an academic course. So I did audited the wonderful local ministerial training here at Guildford and didn't fall flat on my face with that, so that was good. And then you go for meetings. It was a wonderful chap called William Chalice at the time, who wonderful public school chap who'd done mission in Africa, and it's nothing like the life experience I've had, but we just got along so well, like from completely different worlds. And then eventually put me forward to BAP. And that was an experience, but quite a positive experience. I just went and said, I've just got to be really open and honest with these people. And if God wants me to go forward, the door will open. And the door did. And unfortunately, it didn't stop opening since.
Yeah, so actually that's interesting from an academic point of view, because it might be, because a lot of the people we've met with a wide variety of people, obviously, but generally there's a kind of university education in there, and you get the impression that all that training is quite academic. So it might be quite encouraging for other people who don't feel they're in that sort of environment to look at someone who left school straight after GCSEs and hasn't done that sort of. How intimidating was it?
So I think the idea was really quite intimidating initially. I think by that point in my life, I was probably very open to the idea of trying academia. I did find out while I was in training, though, that I am dyslexic, which explained a lot, actually, in life, especially organisational stuff. But actually, one of the joys, I ended up at Durham University, which is, is one of the best universities in the country, which, completely by the back door, obviously, as you do when you go to academic training. But and you're in this place with undergraduates who are some of the most intelligent people in the country or in the world. There's a lot of international students as well. And actually, it was such a privilege, but terrifying all at once. But actually, you're well supported. You're well looked after. It's a time I really look back on fondly.
Yeah, that's good. And it's nice to be able to add you to the ever-increasing list of dyslexic guests that we've had on the show.
Gosh, yeah.
The incidence of dyslexia is quite remarkable.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm beginning to think there's someone in the Church of England maybe who's going around misdiagnosing dyslexia. Maybe that's the answer. So a lovely time up there. Are we married at this point? I've lost track of the family now.
No, absolutely. So we were married, and we had our eldest little girl Ariella with us when we went up to Durham. By midway through my time, we had number 2, Emmy, and when we were leaving, we were expecting number 3.
Right.
So,
So it all happened in those.
Yeah.
But you came out of that nonetheless. Presumably had to find some parish to go to.
So I did 2 years in training because I'd hit that optimum level that they do say in the Church of England. You're over 32, life experience has landed on you,
right?
And so life experience had landed by the time I went into training. So after the first year, you're already in conversation with curacy churches. I'd been told by Guildford Diocese that I was free to look elsewhere. They didn't think they had anywhere for me, actually.
Doesn't sound very nice.
No. Oh. I mean, it's all about...
Is that euphemism? Feel free to look elsewhere, Sean.
It sounds
perhaps
terrible.
The Roman Catholic Church.
It sounds terrible, but actually other dioceses don't give you the same freedom to that. They might hold on to you for a longer, and then there's less. So it was nice. We looked at the Diocese of Truro, so we were thinking we might end up in Cornwall. That sounded really lovely. Wow. But out of what we call a second chance offer, I got an email saying, "This is Jonathan, Sean, have a conversation." I didn't even know where Jonathan was from or anything. After doing a little research, it was this little village on the border of Oxford Diocese called Windlesham. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
I started just after the first COVID lockdown, and as a consequence of the rules at the time, they couldn't ordain us. To be ordained, you have to be blessed and you have to be anointed, and that involves touch, which was one of those things that you didn't do at the time. So I started what they call a licensed lay worker. So no dog collar, and we were straight onto Zoom and not meeting anyone in person for months.
That must have been strange.
Yeah. I wasn't ordained until the October, but as a consequence, they then spread the ordinations out over multiple churches in the diocese. And the church where I was ordained was St Peter's Church, Frimley.
Oh, really?
Which we're sitting next door to right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
How funny is that? Yeah. So, and in fact, it was, you say it's 3 years ago, it was almost exactly 3 years ago. So it was the 11th of October, I think, my research told me.
Yeah.
And it's, the 14th? So
yeah,
so happy anniversry.
Thank you.
3 years, 3 days in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, you have to start doing some work at some point.
Absolutely.
So you had almost 3 years, obviously, by definition, at Windlesham.
Yeah.
So what was the search for an incumbent position like?
We were reasonably relaxed. You get quite a reasonable amount of time. You open the Church Times and you look at all of them and go, oh, I wonder if that job will still be around.
Do you go straight to a description of the vicarage or rectory?
Jen, my wife, definitely. It was a big thing for her.
That is
absolutely.
One of the key
and it was for us. I mean, we loved the one here, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, there we go.
But funnily enough, this job... I was in the third lot of interviews, so where we've ended up now has been and a really big surprise.
And obviously not that far from home.
No,
really,
no. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't apply for another job.
Yeah.
We looked at some. We went and looked at Bournemouth because we hadn't got the coast out of our system.
Marvellous place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Marvellous
it's
place.
beautiful
Yeah,
place.
here we
And then we also had a look at a church heading towards Portsmouth, and both times we sort of came away saying they're lovely places, and we should want to be there, but we didn't. Our heart just wasn't in it.
And of course, you had a wonderful ceremony, I suppose, of lots of words beginning with I.
Yes,
a couple of weeks ago, which looked very grand. But,
Yeah, institution, installation, and induction. I've got all
right.
three of them
Wow.
in one day. And basically, here is a rector position, so that's why I was instituted, I want to
Okay.
say,
Right.
rather than anything else. Again, out of this worldly. When you're describing it to somebody who isn't church, and I had several people there who don't go to church, the only way you can describe it is imagine like a lower key version of the coronation. You're given objects which thankfully aren't as golden as the ones the king was given, and you don't have to strip off like the king did. But you are.
But you did anyway.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not? But yeah, you're given certain objects and they represent certain things, like the key. You had to ring the bell so many times to say how many years you were intending to stay.
Oh,
yes.
that's interesting.
Right. Oh,
Which is
gosh.
great fun if you want to kind of put people on their toes.
Did you know that you had to do that
Oh,
beforehand?
yes.
All right, so you'd worked out how many
yeah.
times you
So
were
Jen and I
gonna-
had a discussion about it. For us, we wanted to go somewhere where we could root down. We've not stayed. Jen and I haven't stayed in one place for more than 3 years. It's the longest we've been in one place since we've been married. So this time it was somewhere we can really set roots and be here. So I rung it. They tell me I rung it 16 times.
Oh,
I was
right.
aiming for 15, but
Oh, right.
It's got an extra one
once you got the momentum on the bell, it could have rung on a bit longer. But
Oh, no, that was too... Sorry, start again.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, right. I've got to get this right.
yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're not held to that, but I've never heard of that before.
No.
And what a weird... I wonder what the range of bells is that people do.
Well, and also you just
do
don't know
one.
because not all. Well, exactly, absolutely.
Never wants to be here in the
I don't
first place.
really like the place, so I think
No.
I'll stay.
But I know I've got colleagues that said they just continued ringing, and I think that until like someone stopped them from ringing the bell. Please no. Yeah.
Is there? I'm quite fascinated by this now. Is there a particular ringing technique? I mean,
Well,
do you have to just like
changes.
ding,
Do you have a little
ding,
thing that you...
or can you go sort of ding?
No. So it's the proper rope.
Oh, it's the actual-
Yeah,
it's
so
the
it's
bell.
the
I'm thinking
church.
shit,
Yeah.
No, it's not a
Yeah.
handbell.
So this one was
right.
actually all right. Once you get a bit of momentum with it, it's fine. So no, it's the actual church
I
bell in the
see.
tower.
So that does require some technique. Then,
Oh, it
doesn't
does.
Just-
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean, they did show me how to do it
Yeah.
before.
And okay, so the other thing that I noticed, because I did watch some of it, yours, and I have seen some others as well. What's with the walking out and walking back in? What's all that about? Someone
yeah.
comes and takes you by the hand.
Yes, they take you to the threshold, to the door, and you place your hand on the door, and then you're given the key. So yeah, it's a lot of movement involved. It's why I was when I was like describing it, think of it like as a budget coronation in some respects, because there is a flow of movement, and you go to certain things. Go to the door, the threshold. You go to the font, and obviously that's talking about raising up new believers. You go to the high table, and that is to obviously the institution of communion and bread and wine and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of movement around.
When you're coming back in down the aisle, are you allowed to skip?
I mean, you're wearing heavy robes, so
that'd be
I mean, you could probably or no one could really see. I guess you can't
Yes.
really see the legs, can you? So
That would
that's
be fun. Did
yeah.
you know, during my induction, installation and institution, I quietly, secretly skipped up the aisle. It'd be fun.
I think I just was concentrating and staying upright.
I don't think it would be appropriate to the solemnity of the occasion. But it must be very moving. Oh, seriously. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that we're running off of the joy of the occasion at the moment, because it actually just overtakes you just to have such a strong welcome and to feel that loved. You know, ministry can be up and down, and I know that the congregation won't always love me at times, so you take that and you hold on to it and you keep hold of that, because it's what kind of keeps you moving.
Well, it certainly sounds like an exciting time in the Beagley household, and actually we'll take a little bit of a look to the future shortly, but it's high time now that we dug a little bit deeper under the surface as we challenge you to the fiendishly difficult game that we call My Favourite Things.
My favourite things.
Yes, actually, this is a very simple game, Sean. We give you a series of categories, and all you have to do is tell us your favourite thing in each.
Okay, and our first category is always your favourite book of the Bible.
So my favourite book of the Bible is John's Gospel. Now, I'm not sure if you should have a favourite gospel, but it is incredibly spiritual. It's incredibly uplifting. The language is incredible. It's not necessarily the most practical gospel in the Bible, but you know, it starts with the idea of light coming into the world, and I think that that's just, the most amazing thing.
It is quite different, isn't it? You've got the three sort of different lengths of story type gospels, and then you've got John at the end. Just slightly, it's all just a little bit different. And if you had to go back to the Old Testament?
Oh, Old Testament. I think I said it earlier. Jonah. I absolutely love the book of Jonah. I think that I empathise with Jonah. You know, you like to, as a spiritual leader, empathise with some of the great leaders like Moses, and I can a little bit. You know, especially at the beginning when he couldn't talk. But much more with Jonah. This idea of God calling you to something and then running in the furthest direction you can go.
Now, Sean, we've established that you're a dab hand at motorcars, so we'd like to know your favourite weather.
My favourite weather. I would say I quite like the rain, actually. I like the rain when it has just come after it's been very hot. I'm being quite specific here. When you can smell it, when you can smell it before you feel it and see it, I think that's wonderful. Quite like a thunderstorm as well.
Yeah.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, it's a good choice, actually.
It's a good shout. The smells of rain are very good, actually.
Yeah.
Rain definitely gives the best smell.
Definitely.
Best weather for smell.
Absolutely.
No,
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's very good.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. And our third category is always a top 5, and currently it's always your top 5 films. Top 5 motion pictures.
So I've been listening to some of your other podcasts, and I feel that there were quite a lot of highbrow choices going on with
Well,
it.
it varies.
Maybe I've listened to the wrong ones.
Yes,
but,
probably.
So mine are just as highbrow. So I'm not saying this is specific order here, chaps. So the first, The Wedding Singer.
Yes.
Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. Just as, in fact, you'll see there's a bit of a theme of like 80s and early 90s going on here.
Brilliant.
But actually, I'm not necessarily universally a big fan of Adam Sandler films. They can be quite samey. The humour can be quite ridiculous at times. But The Wedding Singer, there's just something so nostalgic and spot on about it that makes it just so funny. And Billy Idol's in it. It's just spectacular. He is. You got to watch it, Simon.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it. Blimey.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent.
Very good.
Okay,
All right,
good start.
one.
Yeah. Look Who's Talking. I know, I love the laugh. I told you they were highbrow.
That's so random. No, I'm
is.
not judging at all.
John Travolta and Kirstie Allen. Again, I think this is about a childhood memory. I feel like I remember seeing this when it was quite new as a young child. But just, again, this idea, a voiceover of a baby, and just, it's so random. Yeah, there's something, again, just nostalgic about it. And, good humour.
That's very good. I'm pretty confident we're unlikely to get anyone else choosing.
I don't think you are either.
It's just such an obscure film, but really popular at the time.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
So my next one,
I can't wait.
And this is probably the first.
Drum roll.
Labyrinth.
Oh,
Labyrinth.
right. Yeah.
David Bowie,
David Bowie.
a very young Jennifer Connelly, and
Oh, yeah.
Jim Henson Studios. Well, I quite like the Muppets. I'm surprised the Muppets didn't come on to this, actually, because we do like the Muppets. My daughters love puppets. But actually, yeah, Labyrinth, it's just the music. David Bowie, I mean, there's probably some more like terrible things that they talk about, probably drug problems behind the scenes and things like that. But it's just masterful. And it's just brilliant music and just surreal fantasy, and it's just great. It's probably my favourite film of all time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I could definitely quote lines. That's it. It's that kind of thing where if you have the right person, I think, just wonderful. Next one, Wayne's World. So I told you there was a bit of a theme going on here. So Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, I think they were both Saturday Night Live, so American kind of comedy culture. And Wayne's World, one because it kind of is an earlier incarnation of the kind of like social music scenes that I grew into as a teenager. But they even have people like Alice Cooper on it. They have Tia Carrera plays his girlfriend in there, who was just like the most wonderful person in that sort of time. Yeah, it's just fantastic. I just like the fact that it talks into like that subculture and that music scene, and just I can remember I think we must have walked around and very inappropriately now just going swing.
Oh, swing.
Like that. I'm sure. Yeah, again, it'll get me in a lot of trouble now. Yeah, but
Yes.
Great. I'm pleased you mentioned that. I haven't thought of Wayne's World. It was brilliant.
It was,
Wayne's World. And actually, interestingly, for me at least, because it was kind of like an obscure cable television channel.
That's
isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So very
Public
much
access.
these days it would be vlogging or YouTubing. Or they would be
massively ahead of its time if you think about it.
It's exactly what they would have.
Yeah, absolutely. And the saddest thing, I mean, I loved Austin Powers, which Mike Myers makes after. Again, I'm surprised Austin Powers, one of them, didn't make the list. But the saddest thing is that they were going to make Wayne's World 3, and instead he made Austin Powers. It's bittersweet.
Yeah, very good. Wow, I'm somewhat bamboozled by this onslaught of films I have. Is that four? That's four.
That was
There's
four.
still another one to go.
Another one to go.
And the last one is going to be a curveball. Bugsy Malone. As in, do you remember the one where it's children playing? So it was a young Jodie Foster and Scott Baio playing and musical. And again, it's just one of them ones where it just holds a real warm place in my heart. And they have the custard pie fights, and the guns are custard pie.
Yes, I remember
and
that.
it's just so wonderful. And the idea of like the kids playing this quite adult kind of subject and playing it so well, so realistically, and it's just beautiful. It just reminds me of bank holidays. I think that's what it is. I mean, we don't tend to. I work bank holidays these days, so
Anyway, you're allowed to choose what you like. That's fine. So, have you ever left with the impression that you haven't seen a decent film for about 30 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen a decent film.
More a comment about they're all quite old films, aren't they? So,
Well, absolutely. Well, I actually agree. I'm not really sure I have seen a decent film. And especially more recently, I could have listed off every Disney film going, because they're the kind of things I watch these days, if I'm honest.
They're a marvellous selection. One of my favourite lists of films.
Brilliant. Now, our penultimate category is, of course, the critically acclaimed Great 8. 8 quickfire categories offering a speedy and efficient synopsis of any human being. And in this case, Sean, you.
Okay.
Oh, so here we go. 8 quickfire categories. Starting with your favourite author.
Oh, my days.
You've got a very beautiful bookcase here with plenty of books.
Wow.
You can cheat by each of them.
No, so again, if we're talking sort of Christian literature, I would go with our very own Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell.
Okay.
I think some of the stuff. And he is a very varied author. He's written some fantastic Christian works. He's also written children's books. And I actually lived next door to his son and daughter-in-law when I was training. So every now and then, the Archbishop of York would appear next door. Yeah, I would go with Stephen Cottrell. for
Okay,
that.
in that particular genre, but overall, in the world of writing...
In the world of writing, gosh, I should...
we'll
actually,
Yeah,
no,
well,
I have thought
go
of
on
someone.
then.
Philip Dick. And like the man from High Castle,
Right, yeah.
wrote very wonderful books, which are history which have been reinterpreted. So the man from the High Castle was an idea of the Second World War being won by the Germans and the Japanese, and it's alternative history. So they're the kind of things that I definitely used to read a lot more before I
that's
was
good.
ordained.
Well, I'm glad we teased that one.
It's almost like I wasn't prepared there,
No,
wasn't
that's
it?
brilliant. Brilliant. Excellent. Favourite type of food?
It has to be curry. Curry because it's a social kind of food. I love
Well,
it.
is at
And-
the time, maybe not the next
Well,
day.
yeah. But no, I am very partial to a curry.
Excellent.
So yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot this was quickfire. I got lulled into a
Sorry.
process of relaxation there. Favourite television programme?
At the moment, I would say it is Ladybug and Cat Noir Miraculous, which is a children's cartoon, but it's superheroes. And actually, I must admit, my wife and I watch it when the kids are in bed as well now. So they watch it, and then we watch it because it is very well written.
Yeah, but thinking back to your films now, was there a television programme that has been quite seminal in your life going back in the day?
So actually, bizarrely, probably something like Big Brother would have been the idea of like the birth of reality television. I remember watching the first series of Big Brother as a teenager. When I think it was actually an experiment rather
brilliant, the
than
first
just
series, wasn't it?
We try not to watch a lot of reality television. I'd say that we fail miserably, but original Big Brother I would say was seminal.
Yeah, and it was because uniquely, the first series there, it was before everyone knew how they were supposed to behave on reality. Now everyone's just playing a part of someone on reality television.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, anyway, there we go. Moving on.
Favourite sport?
Rugby, hands down, is still rugby. I would have gone with motorsport, but most people scoff and say that that's not sport, really. But rugby, actually had some joy of sitting and watching some of the World Cup recently, which has been,
Yes. Your favourite band or musical artist?
Oh, gosh. A guilty pleasure at the moment is probably Busted at the moment, which is a nostalgia. At the time, I would have absolutely been embarrassed to have said that, but actually I found myself putting on their new greatest hits in the car quite often.
Great choice. Anyway, Simon, come on, quick fire. Go on,
come
mate.
on.
Sorry,
Come
not
on,
doing well.
Come on. Right, favourite holiday destination?
So we are really boring. It's Devon. I love Devon. We don't do abroad, really, Jen and I. We love going to the south coast, and I just anywhere in Devon, anywhere
Nice.
I can get a cream tea, I'm a very happy
Fantastic.
man.
Your favourite chocolate bar? Oh,
It must be, again, it's a controversial choice, fruit and nut.
yes.
I love a
that's-
fruit and nut.
That's it. That's the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely. But I can't eat it too often now.
Okay. And finally, in the Great Eight, your favourite board game?
Ooh. So it's a classic choice, Monopoly. I'm an all-in Monopoly player, probably the worst Christian when it comes to playing Monopoly. Definitely involves flipping the board and when I lose and things like that. But we're very competitive in this household, so yeah.
Have you ever stolen money from other person or a person's pile?
Not other
while they've been
person's
playing?
pile. I've probably defrauded the bank a few times in the past. Yeah, so I'm probably wanted by the Inland Revenue, but as of
Anyway,
Monopoly,
back to Monopoly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Yes,
Marvellous. Now, our last category in my favourite things is always multiple choice.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 possible answers. And today, Reverend Sean Beagley, we'd like to know your favourite bee. So 3 possible answers. Perhaps the greatest ever words of wisdom from Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes. Perhaps the greatest ever food product, the beef burger. Or beer.
Oh, dear.
I feel like I should say the Beatitudes, but I'm going to go with the beer because I feel like, that's the opportunity to be social and we could talk about the Beatitudes over the beer.
Over a beer, of course you could.
Yeah. So the social aspect will win, I think, but I do love Jesus.
Just thought I'd get that one in.
Yeah, just in case.
Well, there are lots of clerical connections with beer. There was Abbot Ale. I guess it was the monkish brewing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Alongside Carlsberg Special Brew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I feel that no depths have been left unplumbed there, so I think, Sean, you have more than earned a slap-up dinner, which is very handy, because at this point in the show...
It's the fabulous Take A Pew dinner party, the miraculous Take A Pew dinner party. The food is quite irrelevant and some of the guests are odd. It's the impractical, fantastical Take A Pew dinner party.
Yes, Sean, a quick reminder of our dinner party rules. You can have all of your family and friends there, of course, but there remain 4 empty chairs for you to fill.
Yes, and to do that you have to select one person from any time in history, dead or alive, a cartoon character and a non-domesticated animal. And then on the final chair we find a gramophone player which will play the single piece of music of your choice throughout the dinner.
So, Sean, your first choice. The one person from the whole of history that you would choose to join you for dinner. And remember, it can't be anyone who appears in the Bible or any of your family.
Yes, indeed. So my first person would be Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Just the man, the legend, his work of reconciliation with apartheid. I'd love to be able to just talk to him and to know what his heart was. You get to read his books and get a slight understanding, but to have gone through what he did and to put forward such wonderful ideas of reconciliation, and he became a very inclusive person in it later as well. I'm big about inclusive church. His daughter is a lesbian minister, and he became a very inclusive person later in his ministry as well.
Great choice.
Yeah.
And you could ask all the... Would you ask all the other guests to wear a tutu?
Oh, well, I'm partial for a tutu.
Yeah, he wouldn't wear one, I don't think.
No, he wouldn't, because he is
wouldn't.
tutu.
Yeah.
But everyone else would have to wear a
Yes,
tutu.
I think so.
That, yes, it's shaping up quite nicely. Okay, so Desmond is there, and he's going to be joined now by a cartoon character.
So, Bandit from Bluey. That's
Right.
the dad dog from Bluey. Just because, as a dad of young children, you're in awe of that dog daddy who just seems to be able to be everything that you wish to be, and also has two girls. I have 3 girls, so he's a daddy of daughters. Just so cool.
Funnily enough, we have had Bandit before.
Have
Yes,
you?
I was going to
really
say,
true, isn't
that
it?
sprung to
Yeah.
mind. Yes.
Bob Hartman.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
Bandit
That's
from Bluey.
heady heights.
Yeah.
So Bandit and Desmond Tutu.
I thought
what
it was
a combination.
such a combination.
Come on.
Yeah,
Doesn't
absolutely.
get better than that.
Yeah.
Marvellous. Okay, and then a non-domesticated animal could cause chaos or not.
So I'd like an emu.
Right.
An emu. I mean, I'm going to level with you. I would have an emu in the garden if I could, if I thought it was. Absolutely. But just that there's something, could have gone ostrich, but no, I think an emu is right where it's at, really.
It could be quite chaotic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So quite a lively occasion. Do we have a lively piece of music in the background, or?
So I'm teetering on 2 here, so
Okay.
I'm gonna actually just gonna go with it. So I'm gonna go with Copacabana by Barry Manilow.
Barry.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That would drive
Can't beat a bit of Barry Manilow.
Which I think is part of the joy of it as well. Something it is.
Should we have a little? Should we have a rendition of it? Should we have a little sing song?
No, let's not.
Her name was Lola.
She was a showgirl.
Sorry, everyone.
Everyone knows that bit,
Fantastic.
but yeah, no. It was either that or I've Got No Strings by Dickie Jones, which is I got no strings to hold me down from Pinocchio. So, which again, they're both earworms. So I kind of thought, why not?
That would be carnage.
Yeah.
I just wonder with Copacabana or Got No Strings whether it would be okay, fun to start,
Yeah,
but whether it be one of those things that would go through the phase of being awful,
yeah.
but then come out the other side of
It
being
would become
somehow
retro,
magical.
wouldn't it? Come back
Yeah.
around. It would come
so
back
after
around.
about an hour and 57 minutes, of whether people would start just living in the Copacabana moment with Desmond Tutu,
Exactly.
Bandit from Bluey, and an emu inexplicably in the corner. It's a marvellous.
That was weird, totally weird. My wife was singing that in the shower this morning.
Really?
And we came down. She was singing it down in the kitchen, and we were both singing it this morning.
That is kind of weird.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say, Sean, is we hope as ever that you are able to organise such a marvellous dinner party before too long. In the meantime, you are clearly living in interesting times right now, as we were chatting about. But we'd like to look just a little further ahead as we ask you...
12 years from now, what would you like to be doing? Or would it mainly be the same? Or would you rather be canoeing for example?
Yes, just an example.
Yes, Sean, what would you like us to be talking about if we were having this conversation with you 12 years from now?
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I think I gave it away a little bit with the
rung the
ringing
bell.
of bells, but I would really like us to be here still. Actually,
Yeah.
I'd like us to probably being a little bit nostalgic of the days that we're running through right now, but yeah, to be really rooted for the family and focused on this community still and enjoying what we're doing and where we are.
Fantastic.
But just thinking about it, because obviously very shiny new rector. What's it like? I mean, honestly, what are the biggest challenges, do you think? What do you least look forward to?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, at the moment you are generally liked and you're generally have positive reception. Like I say, I'm very used to saying who I am, getting a round of applause. I'm sure in 12 years' time that won't be the case. I guess I'm not looking forward to when, you know, maybe relationships are slightly more challenging at times. At the moment, you get to be very much, rabbit in the headlights, kind of feel your way through, and there's a lot of support. You know, I'm very lucky to have a fantastic team here who are very much holding me up right now. But at some point, it will be my responsibility much more, and the expectation will be that I actually do the job.
So, obviously a grace period, so to speak.
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely.
lifelong. And we wish you every blessing, all of you here, wherever life and the Lord may take you. Sure.
Thank you.
Now, in a minute or two, Sean, we'd be delighted if you could bless us with your spiritual pearl of wisdom. But just to warm up to that, we'd like to take you with us into the murky world of Bible conspiracy theories in the little part of the show that we like to call...
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
Yes, is it true? And this time, Sean, we think we may have unearthed the rather ordinary truth behind one of Jesus' miracles, as we look at the famous raising to life of Lazarus, recorded in chapter 11 of your favourite John's Gospel. Because, after extensive academic research, we believe that Lazarus was not actually his name, but rather he was simply called Russell. He was indeed the brother of Martha and Mary of Bethany, but in contrast to his very spiritual sister Mary, and especially his very industrious sister Martha, our Russell was known to be pretty idle. And so naturally he became known as Lazy Russ, which somehow got misinterpreted when recorded in the Bible. Now, apparently Lazy Russ was renowned for just loafing around and catching 40 winks whenever he could, and so it is thought that actually when we come to the incident with Jesus, Lazy Russ was not actually dead, but rather just having an especially long nap. It could even have been the case that he was enjoying such a sound sleep that his sisters did indeed think he was actually dead and put him in a tomb. Luckily, Jesus' loud and commanding voice was enough to rouse him before anything too serious happened. So this all seems pretty credible to us, but Reverend Sean Beagley...
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
Yes, is it true?
No.
There's quite a lot of... I mean, actually, Jesus nearly gave the game away himself, because as I'm sure you're familiar, early in that passage where they say Lazarus has died,
Yeah.
he says, no, he hasn't, he's just sleeping.
Yeah, true.
So
It
he
could be
does say
true.
that. And then obviously changes the story and says, oh no, hang on. Oh no, yeah, you're right, he's dead. But actually, he was just having a good old nap, old lazy Russ.
Yeah, I mean, I guess grave clothes could be a little bit like an early incarnation of like the snood, couldn't it?
Yes.
Being like
Yes.
wrapped like that. But
Yes.
yeah, no.
It is a bit of a stretch to think he might, because I think he'd been for 4 days that it records in
Has
the
it
Bible.
4 days? Oh, gosh.
So be asleep for 4 days, even for someone like Simon, it would be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Although saying that, they do say that he was beginning to smell, and most of us would smell if we
He
slept for
would,
4 days.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So we don't know. So you don't think?
I don't think
that's
so
right.
anyway,
No.
but you know, we could research a bit more.
I think it.
Well, you
it
do
might
do
be worth it.
extensive research on these things, Ian, don't you?
I do, yeah. No, I spent a lot of time looking at this. I was
a lot
quite
of time.
disappointed, really, because I thought it was right.
Okay.
It's a bit of trivia, which you may or may not be aware of. Lazarus. Talking of the name, actual Lazarus. You may be familiar with the parable in Luke 16 of the rich man and Lazarus. Not the same Lazarus.
No.
Covered in boils and sores. And as I was in the course of my research, I found out that it's the only parable that identifies someone by name. All the others are just like the rich man, the widow. That Lazarus, the only person who gets a name check in any parable.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting.
That is quite interesting. Yeah.
It's almost worth making up the rubbish about lazy Russ just to find that out.
Every day is a school day, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I must concede. You're probably right with that one, Sean. One of these days we might come up with an is it true that actually is true. You never know. But one thing that is certainly true is it is now time for your spiritual pearl of wisdom.
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
So, my spiritual pearl of wisdom is probably the simplest and most basic one that anyone could possibly give. But it's actually to love people. It's the second commandment given by Jesus: love God and love thy neighbour as thyself. But loving people is a wonderful thing. That's not to say that we like people. It's not to say that we always get along and we have to agree with people. But it even says that when we share love with one another, it overcomes many other issues and sins. And it's been my experience that this is truth. When we love one another, it allows us to be people who are flexible, who are open, but also people who are willing to serve and care for one another. And I just think that that is the best way to be. It's the way Jesus taught us.
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
Marvellous. Well, thank you very much for that, Sean. And that leaves us with just one, frankly, rather unsavoury part of the show to get through. And that is...
Simon's random question.
Simon, what is your random question for Sean?
Well, Sean, we're here in a very leafy part of the world. And on the way here, I was surveying the beautiful countryside, and I thought, wouldn't it be strange if all the grass and shrubs and trees were not green? So my random question for you is this. If God had not had green at his disposal, what do you think would have been the best colour for all green things to be instead?
Yeah, it's a very important question, I think. Yes.
It's a highbrow one. So
Yeah, very
real
sensible.
highbrow
Yes,
one. Yeah.
impressive.
Well, I'm going to go with my favourite colour, which is blue.
Blue.
I think blue would be. I mean, there'd be some confusion over like water and sky,
Yeah.
but actually, I think that if you were going to get rid of green, then blue would be the way forward. Definitely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, it's a very natural colour, so I guess it could fit. You would, as you say, though, you'd be in a complete world of blue, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could drive you mad.
Yeah. So
Because you wouldn't be able to see the horizon,
Yeah.
all the coast. You just end up walking into the sea.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be able to tell where the land stopped. But I think it's not a bad shout.
No, it's not a bad shout.
Food might be challenging, because all the blue sprouts.
Yeah.
But, you know, they might be even worse than green sprouts, I suppose. Bread. Red trees. You do get red trees.
You get red trees, yeah.
Red lawn, red grass.
Red cabbage.
Red cabbage,
Red
yeah.
cabbage.
Yeah.
So actually red
Red would be
could work
good.
quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You get red tides as well, being a marine biologist. You get dinoflagellate blooms of goniolax, which is actually a red tide.
Very good.
Every day is a school day on Take A Pew.
Some more useful than others.
Indeed.
No,
Yeah.
red, orange,
Yeah.
orange lawn. What would be a nightmare if you were eating an orange on an orange lawn, you dropped it, you'd just never be able to find
never
it.
find
would
it
you?
again, would you?
So that wouldn't be if you're partial to oranges, you wouldn't want everything to be orange.
Yeah.
And picking an orange would become quite a challenge as well.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
the
that'd
whole
be
plant
very-
would be
that'd be
orange, wouldn't it?
Yes, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It is. I do like the fact that green and blue are very peaceful colours. I mean, we'd all accept the green, but they are the colours of nature. So of course they are. You know, I do like that. But it's probably lucky that they are green.
I think green's
Yeah.
good. Good
Yeah.
choice.
I think
We'll
good
go back
choice.
to green.
Anyway, Sean, I feel slightly bilious at the idea of an orange world, so I'm glad you've chosen blue there. So I'm pretty pleased that we were stuck with green. But in any case, that was
Simon's random question.
And so, Sean, congratulations on making it through the Take A Pew experience.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here in Frimley, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And dear listeners, thank you once again for joining us. If you've enjoyed listening, please do subscribe to and follow the show wherever you listen. That would help us grow the Take A Pew family. In any case, Simon and I will be back very soon to bring you plenty more fun, faith and flights of fancy. But in the meantime, it's Toodle Pip from me.
And tatty bye from me.
Join us again next time as we Take A Pew.